After the meeting, the plan to start uniting. Well, some here say the way to do it is to do what another Republican outsider did back in 1980, run on a united ticket of overhauling our massive tax code to get our economy running again and make our country great again. But would it work now? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Mike Ozanian, Bill Baldwin, Elizabeth McDonald, Kerry Sheffield, John Tamny, and Bruce Japsen. So, EMAC, 1980. Ronald Reagan partnered with Jack Kemp in Congress to get tax reform. Could Trump partner with Ryan to do the same?
The answer is yes. Trump's theme is Make America Great Again. Paul Ryan is saying prosperity through economic growth. Listen, under Reagan, the animal spirits were unleashed on the U.S. economy. You had major blue-chip companies, Cisco, Dell, Compaq, created under the Reagan years. Now we have an app economy with low-wage jobs that pay hardly anything. And so, you know, and we also have a third, watch this, a third of manufacturing workers on welfare, David. It's really bad. It
is awful. And, John, not to diminish Reagan, but before Reagan, a couple of years before Reagan, Jack Kemp, who was a great tax cutter, had this Kemp-Roth plan, and Reagan kind of piggybacked on that and used Jack Kemp to get that through Congress. Could the same happen with Trump-Ryan?
I think it certainly diminishes Reagan to mention Trump in the same breath, and I think that's the problem. If I'm Paul Ryan and the Republicans, I would run as fast as I can from Donald Trump. Here, this top negotiator managed in the past week to negotiate away his own tax cut in the media, the only pro-growth aspect of his economic program. If you look at the rest, it's very anti-prosperity, particularly his ideas on trade. Why would Republicans want to associate the brand with this?
Okay, I take that as a no. I'm just guessing, but I take that as a no. Mike Ozanian, already Hillary Clinton has come out with this sort of class warfare rhetoric against the Trump tax plan, which would cut rates down. The highest rate would be 25% from about 40% where it is now. Here's the joint statement from Donald Trump and Paul Ryan. It says, it's critical that Republicans unite around our shared principles, advance a conservative agenda, and do all we can to win this fall. And you look at what actually happened. If they use tax reform as a way to do that, you look at what happened under Reagan. Both the poorest 20% and the richest 20% increase their income by almost the same amount. It goes against that class warfare argument.
And more importantly, in my opinion, David, is the fact that if you were in the bottom quintile during the Reagan years, 8 out of 10 of those people in that quintile in income rose to a higher quintile, so there was upward mobility. Take-home pay under Reagan, adjusted for inflation, went up an average of $4,000 per family.
But would the same happen now?
If you get a pro-growth tax plan through, absolutely. We're in an economy that's over-regulated and overtaxed. What Hillary wants to do is redistribute wealth. Does not have a plan to increase the economy. She's Obama 2.0. Take-home pay under Obama has gone nowhere.
And I take it, Bruce, you agree with that 100%.
Sure, yeah. Well, I guess what concerns me most is Trump has no credibility to talk about taxes because he isn't releasing his tax return. And even Romney said this week that there's probably a bomb in there. Now, setting that aside,
he did. That's fine.
Not me.
Go ahead. Let's talk about tax reform, though. Is his plan going to do the same that Reagan's plan did?
I don't think so, because his plan changes from day to day. And what he doesn't understand is that he's going to need Paul Ryan is the most important lawmaker in Congress, and maybe they could get some of Trump's ideas to eliminate the carried interest so the hedge funders don't get their low rate and things like that. But I just don't see how they're going to come together. It'll have to be a Ryan plan working with Mrs. Clinton.
Well, Kerry, if they do get together, I mean, Paul Ryan could be the inside guy that deals with all the bells and whistles that Congress demands when you put together a tax reform proposal.
Yeah, I agree with that half of your analogy. I absolutely think that Paul Ryan could be the new Jack Kemp. I love Jack Kemp. I'm friends with his son. He's fantastic. But I don't think the Ronald Reagan analogy, I agree with John on this, because Reagan was consistent. He was the shot in the arm against Jimmy Carter's sluggishness. But the problem is that Donald Trump is not consistent. You know, he's flip-flopping all the time on his minimum wage, on his trade plans, on his tax plans. And that's what's concerning with a lot of conservatives.
Bill, it is true. On the tax plan, first he came out with it, then he said he may modify it, now he says he's going to stick with it, so there is a lack of consistency there.
I think Trump is worse than inconsistent. I think he could poison the conservative movement and the supply-side tax economics for which it stands. Quite possibly.
But hold on a second. Bill, hold on 1 second. His tax plan as it is now, if he does stand by it, does reduce rates dramatically the way Ronald Reagan reduced rates. So it has the essence of supply-side tax cutting.
It has the essence of voodoo economics. There's no way that he'd make those numbers.
So you didn't believe in Reagan either.
Well, I believe in Ronald Reagan. I don't believe in this phony.
Okay, but Emac, the fact is that you look at Ronald Reagan's plan, which was actually Jack Kemp's plan and Ronald Reagan together, and it did basically the same thing that Trump's plan does, brought down all the major rates, across-the-board tax cuts.
Yeah, and economic growth exploded. So what are we looking at right now? 7 years of flat to no growth under President Obama. The European Union is growing faster than the U.S. Crabgrass is growing faster. My hair is growing faster than the U.S. is growing right now. Yeah. And what are we in? Let's talk broad zoom. Full throttle government spending, Grey Poupon spending in there too. Fed money printing. That dampens animal spirits if the government is stepping in full bore like it has been. Yeah. And, we've got 60% of U.S. households getting more in government benefits than they pay into the system in taxes.
John, I understand that your disagreement with Trump on trade, and I think Paul Ryan has the same disagreements on trade and immigration, a lot of things. But on tax policy, don't you think they basically have the same understanding?
Trump's one good idea is his tax plan, but that concerns me because he's already backtracked on that. But I don't think we can minimize the horrors of his trade ideas, which would be a huge tax on the American people.
I'm not minimizing the problems there. What I'm saying is that at least on the tax cutting proposal, it looks like they may be able to come out with a joint agreement.
Yeah, but let's also add that he's also been fairly explicit that he wants to pursue a devalued dollar. Presidents get the dollar they want. That would be another huge tax on the American people. Why would Republicans associate with someone who's not certain on taxes and is so anti-growth?
And I understand,
otherwise?
Mike, I understand there's a whole lot of other issues involved in making an economy work. But on this one issue, and Ronald Reagan, again, he focused on tax reform as the basis for getting the economy moving again, for making America great again. Let's go ahead and say it. I mean, wouldn't that be a tremendous boon to the economy?
Of course. It's an easy question to answer, David. And this election, in my opinion, is predominantly about one thing and one thing only. Take-home pay in this country is lower today than it was in January of 1999. And I would think that a liberal like Bruce would love Trump's plan, would love Reagan's plan, because tax receipts to the federal government under Reagan, adjusted for inflation, increased by 28%.
That's right. The tax revenues came in. And let's put up that chart again, if we can, of the poorest and the richest. Bruce, if you're concerned about the disparity between the poorest and the richest, look what happened from 1983 to 1990, those 7 fat years. Both the poorest 20% and the richest 20% did almost exactly as well in terms of income.
Well, listen, Trump has so many flaws, but I will set them aside for 60 seconds and say that, there are some things you could do with the middle class tax cut, and there are some things you can do with some of the things that wealthy people get. Like, everybody knows that carried interest thing for the hedge fund guys is outrageous. So you could come to some agreement there, and I think Paul Ryan would be open to that. But he has to nail down Trump, and he's also got to deal with the Tea Party crazies as well. So I don't know how it's going to be done.
Put me down as a Tea Party crazy, by the way, Bruce. All right, we got to leave.